What's up, everybody? This is Dominic D'Angelo of adfreeshows.com, SEScoops.com, but I'm here on 4horsemenetwork.com, and none other, it is Straight Talk with the boss, Magnum TA and Greg Gagne. Woo, guys, it's good to be here with you again.
You too.
Hey, thanks.
I wasn't too late yet today, was I?
No, you're always on time, Greg. What are you talking about?
You know, I don't forget. It's the memory. I've got such a great memory. I just tell me what I need to do and tell me about 2 minutes before. Otherwise, I'll forget it.
Well, Greg, you were talking off air just right now about this. I wanted to ask you. I figured I'd save this for the show. We're live, by the way. So, guys, if you want to chime in, get a question in, use the super chat, help us out, boost us up. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, get the word out about us. But, Greg, we're talking about some perks if you're a wrestler, like if you have to get whether you're at a restaurant or something like that, or that when you're up in Minnesota and people know you and stuff like that. Have you kind of scratched that itch a little bit? Has that happened for you?
Here's the deal. Laura's here right now.
Uh-huh.
So I can't tell you some of the benefits we had.
You can say whatever you want.
No.
I can say whatever I want. But we had some dandies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll leave it at that before I get
leave it at that.
Yeah.
How about you, Magnum? Was there any good perks back when you were going around at NWA days and stuff like that? Obviously, drinks probably, I'd imagine.
I mean, I don't think I paid for a whole lot of alcohol for a couple of years. To be quite honest.
Yeah.
But I mean, people, we didn't get. The illusion is that we had all this time to, go. We weren't like Greg's organization that gave back some time to his people and all that kind of stuff. Our deal was pretty much, 320 plus days a year, as far as you could go, and it was probably even more than that because I drastically remember going on a 90-day stretch one time where we were going like 10 matches a week because we were doing matinees and all this stuff, and going to Dusty's office and leaving him a little note that says, "I am getting ready to crack if you don't let me off for a couple of days." Yeah. But, as far as like those perks, we didn't get to go out to like nice dinner spots and stuff like that with the frequency that one would think, and in a lot of the occasions where we did, the Crockett's would be taking Dusty and I out and our families and stuff, and they popped for everything. But
right.
As far as the fans, Greg was speaking about extracurricular tips, I believe, not necessarily the ones you consume and for your health purposes, right. and that's a whole nother story that we could have about 25 episodes on in the future, way down the road.
Way down the road.
My kids are grown and don't ever listen to this.
Yeah.
Well, we had some perks. We flew a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had such a big area from Winnipeg to St. Louis to the West Coast. So we flew at that time in Northwest Airlines. And, usually the promoters paid for the airfare, but we got all the credit on our mile cards. So, the end of the year, we had quite a few free flights. So, take the family on vacation and that. So, because we got that whole month of May and the first 2 weeks of June off every year.
Oh, wow.
And so, and that was, and then in the summer, we only maybe worked 3-4 times a week at the most. And then September started, we went from September to end of April was our big push. So, in the hotel, we got discounts in the hotel rooms. And even if we were not wrestling and came into town, they would still give us those perks. So, it was nice things like that. And you get people after the matches take you to dinner. And, we weren't like TA. You were on the road a lot in the cars, weren't you, TA?
I was until I came to work for the Crockett's. When I came to work here, I was on a plane every day.
Oh, you were on the private plane, or were you on the airline?
Well, started out commercial, and then they bought a Gulfstream G1 and a Falcon 20 Learjet, and inevitably, a lot of times that meant we would fly and come back, but then also a lot of times that would mean we would take a loop out west and we would stay, so we would be in a different city every night, but we were flying private, and of course, controlled our own destiny of when we went through and didn't have to worry about security check-ins and all that kind of stuff because we were going to private airports. But the driving portion had really almost ceased to be a thing, except for very, very close shots. I mean, I didn't drive anywhere that wasn't like 30 minutes away, hardly, unless ridiculous stuff. We flew the jet from Charlotte to Conway, South Carolina, which is over by Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
And it took longer to take off and to descend than the flight across. Yeah. So we kind of got spoiled there towards the end of my particular part of the run. But in the early days, yeah, it was brutal. You were in a car, 10 hours out of a day, going to and from. Especially like working for Bill Watts. The average day was 500 miles.
Oh my gosh!
Every day, nothing special.
When we first started, Flair and I were booked in Winnipeg, and the next day in Chicago.
Oh,
drive
how
that
far of a
route.
Trip is that?
Oh well, it's good 450 to Winnipeg, and then another from Minneapolis to Chicago, another 4 something, almost 500 to there.
Oh my gosh!
So we'd wrestle in Winnipeg, drive back, get home early in the morning, and then drive to Chicago. Or then another one was Minot, North Dakota. We drive that in the wintertime, and that was 550 miles. And the roads were so bad.
Man.
So bad. And we'd make a loop up there in that North Dakota, and oh my God, 30 below zero and snow and ice, and you're crawling along, and it's taking you 10, 15 hours to get back home.
My God.
Yeah, those were some tough trips. But later on, we had a plane like they did, not a jet, but we had a prop, a Navajo chieftain, and they put usually the top 3 matches we get in there. It only carries 7. And the pilot. So 7 people usually get it going.
Wow. Somebody asked in the chat here, Greg.
Oh, shit, that driving.
Yeah, I bet. Somebody asks in the chat here, CB does. Greg, did you fly with Mad Dog again after you opened the plane door in the flight on that infamous plane?
He didn't fly too much with us after that.
I believe it.
He kind of got bumped off.
But
he did end up getting back on it. Yeah, we did fly with him, but he was a little more under control.
You duct taped him down for that one.
Oh my God. He was a personality like I've never been around before in my life. Unpredictable. Crazy.
We'll have to do a full episode on him for sure.
And getting in the ring with him was just unbelievable. Did I ever tell you this is the first time I wrestled him?
I don't know. Tell me, and it'll charge me up.
So,
I don't think
I said to my dad, I said, okay, what do I do with him? And he said, hit him twice as hard as he hits you. And I said, and he says, and good luck. So I go out in the ring, he's doing the jump around the ring, and the match starts, and man, he threw me the turnbuckle and hit me. And we exchanged about the third one. I hit him really got him with a good one, and he lost his equilibrium. So I grabbed a leg and took him down. Took a deep breath like that, and he goes scratched down my back. I go, oh my God! I was 25 minutes in the ring with him. I get back in the locker room, and I'm scratching, bleeding, and Brunzell's sitting there, and he's laughing. And I said, "You've got him Friday night in Denver." And about that time, Mad Dog kicks open the locker room door. Oh, shit, I've seen this before. And he's got that look on him like this. And I grabbed the chair and I got it in my hand, and he goes, I respect you. Shook my hand and walked out.
No shit.
I almost filled my pants right there.
Who would you rather work with on a regular basis, done a whole program with, Mad Dog or Bruiser Brody?
Whoa. Either one, you're going to take a beating.
Right. Pick your poison.
There's really I can't pick either one of them. That Brody kicked me so hard one time I thought my head was up on the balcony. Oh, he was. I had good matches with him, but oh my God, it was when we wrestled him and Stan Hansen in Japan in a tournament. We actually our arms are black and blue from reaching up and hitting them so hard.
Man, just big dudes.
Oh yeah, they were something else. That was a treat. That's for another day. Tell you about our first match with him, and you got along pretty good with Brody, didn't you, TA? You told me stories about it, and I know you told one on here.
We got along great. I had no problem with him.
Oh, good for you.
He loved Magnum.
Yeah, we were pals.
Yeah.
He never potatoed me one time.
How many times did you get him though?
Not once.
You're a stiff.
No, I was realistic, is what I was.
Yeah.
How was it?
I came from the Wahoo McDaniels Johnny Valentine School of Finesse.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was the same way with us. Vern, lay him in, and man, you had to fight, and we had some great.
Bill Watts was so adamant about that, and we worked this program with the Midnight Express where the loser had to take 5 lashes with a Latigo leather belt, and he said, if there's no marks on their backs after this is over, you're fined. Well, the rib was on me we did this around the whole circuit, and I was with wrestling too, and we were working the angle where he was turning heel, and he'd walk on me, and I'd take all the lashes, 10 lashes. So I looked like I'd come out of a Spartacus movie or something by the time I finished that ankle. And I looked at Bill, and I just, okay, it's going to come back to haunt you one day. And it did, because I left him. But but yeah, that snug laid in thing, I honestly believe that stylization, is what kept people believe, no matter what they saw. If they saw one group of people that they always knew was a solid performance, it looked like a contest, looked like a real struggle or a real fight, it could just carry a promotion a long ways down the road.
Yep.
And and there was Vern, preached a contest. So did Eddie Graham, Bill Watts, all the greats that that I looked up to and admired. And so, yeah, when snug and potatoing somebody is two different things. If you're potatoing somebody, give them a receipt because they were a little too snug. That's one thing. But I mean, like, I never try to take liberties with somebody and bust them up and rough them up and do the stuff like you would see the prey that got thrown to the Road Warriors on Saturday mornings back in the day, or the Steiners, where they were just like cannon fodder. So didn't care what they did to another human being. But that believability factor is money. It creates that illusion of something that they can't see through. And Greg will tell you, if you're out there and you roll out to the floor and you're fighting through a bunch of people and you're throwing a bunch of wimpy looking flipping punches and stuff, they're gonna like you're gonna kill the whole thing just that quick. You can't be throwing some limp wristed looking punches to the side of your head and think somebody's going to think you're in a real fight, because most people back in those days had had a fight or two of their own, and they knew the difference.
I believe it. Did you guys, when you would run into this stuff like that, say somebody was throwing some really weak ass punches, they looked horrible and stuff like that, Greg, were you the type of person to kind of call somebody out on that and be like, hey, come on, stiffen up a little bit? Or how would that go about it? Or would somebody get notified, or would somebody just be paying attention when it comes to
I would generally lay a real good one in on them.
Yeah. To make them, yeah.
I'll tell you, one night it was wrestling Ray Stevens and Nick Bockwinkel.
Uh-huh.
And I was down, and Ray apparently hit me from behind. I didn't feel anything. And he says, sell it. I said, what? And then he whacked me. I got the message, but I said, Ray, you got to lay him in.
Yeah.
I didn't feel anything.
Well, especially if you can't see it to that point. I mean, I've heard people talk about and I'll bring up a controversial name, but like Chris Benoit
Mm-hmm.
had such a solid work, solid looking work, but he worked very light, and he would be like that if he was in an altercation in the ring and he hit somebody with a punch or something, they didn't even register it. A lot of times it's because they didn't see it and they felt nothing. But he'd make sure the second one got their attention. But there was guys that were just that smooth and that silky, but it still looked good. I somehow came across uh, Jimmy Superfly Snuka and Ricky Steamboat working in Japan
Mm-hmm.
on a YouTube, and I forgot just what a great heel Jimmy Snuka was until I just saw his body motion and his persona and his scowl and the way he just walked the ring before the match and just, but everything he did was so fluid, and I ended up being in the ring with him later on in the year. I mean, he was just the lightest touch, worker that you'd ever want to be across, but he looked like this, caveman Neanderthal that could rip your head off and, throw it at like a basketball. But he had that finesse, but it still looked good. So, guys that could do that, that's a great thing. I physically couldn't work that light and move the way that I need to move, what I would need to do in the ring. Just simplest thing is tying up. You see some people tie up and it looks like the dance of the ballerinas. Then you see a couple guys tie up and man, it's like two bulls coming together. When they snatch a headlock, you feel it.
Right.
So it's that pantomime that takes a little exertion, takes some speed, takes something to get people's attention, and usually there's little when you have momentum and speed, if it's off just a little bit, as Arn would tell you, if he could jump over in this podcast, he leaned in on a little one of my backhands one time and I broke his nose. And I stopped, but I didn't know he was going to lean in. And when he leaned in, he got just ding, man. Poof.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, geez, we'll have to follow up with Arn on that one. We have Andrew, his research guy, in on tune in at 5, so we'll have to.
And I didn't mean to, like I said, it was just things were thrown at high speed, and with velocity, there's force there if the two things come in contact.
Right. I'm ready for a rematch.
Who are you ready for a rematch with?
I want to see Magnum and Arn go at it.
What? No,
man, I tell you,
you get between TA and I.
Oh, geez, you want me to
bounce you back and forth?
Oh no.
Yeah, Vern was, man. You had to be solid. You had to lay everything in. So I mean, it was physical.
I believe it. Who was you mentioned getting a good lockup in Magnum? Who was really good at doing that? Like, who was always really crisp with that kind of stuff?
Well, there was a lot of guys that were good at it. I mean, I worked a pretty good program with Butch Reed when I first got to Mid-South. And Butch was just, man, I mean, he never, that guy, and I was with him when he was a babyface in Florida Championship Wrestling. Then he went over to Mid-South before I got the call and I went over. And when I got there, boy, he was jacked to the moon. He was about 285 pounds and just in amazing shape, never get tired in the ring. And his stuff was, it was solid. It was just, and it was effortless for him. And he was just a big, rough, rugged guy. So, I like being, working with guys like that. Ronnie Garvin, Hands of Stone, same thing. Solid, boom, grab, tops, did very simple things, but they all, you could feel the tension when you saw the two people collide like that,
Yeah.
And,
Greg, how about you? Who was big lockup guys for you?
Oh God, we were very fortunate. We, from top to bottom, everybody on that card really knew what they were doing. once in a while you get a couple guys in came in new and they were they come at you and you know, we just kind of snatch them and grab a headlock or something and take them over the. You know, that's the way we were taught, boy.
That's it.
And we better be, or you're not going to be in there. So everything was very, very solid.
Man, yeah.
And I mean, everybody we worked with there was that way.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's the way Vern wanted it. And if you wanted to stay there and you want to be successful in the AWA, you had to be that firm and solid with everything you did.
Right. That was like the primary foundation of like that promotion.
And you had to be able to wrestle. And that's why, we went through all these holds and counter holds and submission holds. So if we did get in a situation, we knew what to do.
Right.
I remember we got the Road Warriors one night and they're doing their thing and just hammering. And finally you got Joe down and I put the Indian Deathlock on him.
Yeah.
And his legs were so big. Mine are so small, but his were so big that I could snap at any time. And he's about, they're about out of gas. We let him go hard and then we took him down, right? We got the leg down. I got him in the Indian Deathlock and he's, I'm going to kill you when I get up. I'm going to kill you when I get up. I said, well, come on up. He came up and I slapped him as hard as I could. I did it about 3 times to him. I said, I'll break it if you're going to keep this up. You're breaking my leg. You're breaking my leg. His legs were so big. There was hardly any pressure I had to put on, but they would snap. So I kept him down there for about three minutes or so. He was mad when he got up. He limped to the other side.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Jeez. I know. Interactive.
Sometimes you had to do it to slow down some of those guys.
Right.
And that's the one thing I remember Vern told us when we came out of the wrestling camp. He said, "What you guys have done in here, you don't have to be afraid of anybody."
How about that?
Yeah, and we didn't. I don't think we really realized what he meant by that. I mean, I knew we could take care of ourselves, but we went to Atlanta. We were supposed to wrestle Cowboy Bob Orton, and maybe I told the story, and Dick Slater for the title. Mm-hmm. So the first night we get there, Brute Bernard is in the locker room. He was kind of a rugged guy, and his manager. So I went down, sat down next to him, introduced myself, and he said, "Your dad's a something sucker."
Oh yeah, you did tell us. Yeah.
And I said, well, and I just sat there and I said, well, I guess, you have your thoughts. And he got up and walked out, and we walked out and followed him. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, I said, "Hey, do you have a problem with me?" And he said, no. And he shook our hands. But we had that identity coming out of the camp that we could probably handle ourselves. And it really, and everybody after that respected us. I mean, we didn't have any problem with anybody.
Wow.
But we had such a good match with Rip Hawk and who's the other one? Rip Hawk and Dr. Jerry Graham.
Oh.
That our match was too good that they put us with Bob Backlund and Jerry Briscoe for the next 2 weeks and clean matches, and that was just a treat.
That was a treat. That was
God.
Jeez.
But that was a reputation that we got from coming out of that camp.
Yeah, I believe.
And we were very fortunate to be respected by most of the people except the guys working in Charlotte.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think the neat aspect of it too is just the fact that Vern did have such a long list of guys that he's trained, and it's such a diverse list of guys that he's worked with too, and kind of having that legitimacy. Like,
I wish we'd had Magnum in the AWA for a while.
That would have been something. That definitely
it would have been great.
Something that was something this week. What took place was Kenny Omega returned to AEW and cut a promo. Diverticulitis. Doesn't seem like he'll be back wrestling anytime soon. AEW's kind of been going through a little bit of the ringer after this whole Tony Khan thing. If you guys happen to see the NFL stuff and, him obviously getting the neck thing going on, the neck brace and stuff like that. Magnum, give me your overall thoughts on what AEW's kind of been doing kind of to quote unquote recorrect course, it seems, in certain ways, and how they've kind of handled themselves the past recent weeks from what you've seen.
I'm going to buy off gracefully this time because honestly, I haven't watched their product enough in the last week to see if some things improved. I have a very emotional roller coaster with that group.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not sure what it is they want to be. I'm not sure what it is they want to be. And I'm not sure I'm in the group of people that honestly even know how to appreciate what it is that they do. Because there's obviously a fan base in people that really embrace, you know, like the culture and the diversity and the different things that they, you know, bring in from. I'll give you an example. Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
I always loved Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn looks better physically than probably anybody on that whole roster. Yeah. I mean, just at 50 years old or whatever he is.
He's like
I don't know how old. But the thing is, you know, like, you know, what in the world? What is the Scissor Club? What is that?
Yeah.
What are they promoting? Are they making clothes? Are they got scissors? Or they got cardboard? Or are they doing rock paper scissors? You know, like I don't know what it is they want to promote. You know, I don't know if it's just a like shock jock, you know, factor. Oh, I'm gonna be so edgy, and I'm gonna make you think edgy is cool, whether you think it's cool or not, or you're gonna get them. You know, they're like stretching so hard to find, you know, some little thing. And there's some really, really talented people on that roster that could do exceptional things with some guidance. And I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't think they've got. I still don't think they're getting the guidance. I think that Tony Khan is passionate, loves the business, no ifs, ands, or buts, that his heart's in the right place, and he's put his wallet out there. And thank God. Provided an alternative to people that can't work for the WWE, and so I'm thankful for them. But I can't wrap my head around where they want it all to go. At the end of the day, I just can't. You know, I see bursts of brilliant things that come out, and then I see things that just make me go, "What the flip is anybody thinking about there?" So I cheer them, and I want them to do better. And I want to see it successful because I got a lot of skin in this game of this wrestling profession that I want there to be more places out there for guys to make a living. But I can't follow a storyline hardly. Honestly, one of the simplest things out there to follow is timeless Tony Storm. That's the little simplest gimmick, and she embraced it, and she is living it and doing it and breathing. And God bless her. She's doing a heck of a job, and they've been consistent the way they've handled it, more so than anything else I've seen them do. Anything.
100%. That's been the best one so far, I think.
Yeah.
Too.
So, you know, Edge, fantastic 4-star guy. Samoa Joe, 4-star guy. Swerve Strickland, potential out the yin yang. But they'll, these guys are huge in Japan that aren't known, you know, in the American, public the way they could be. And it takes some programming and really understanding of what it takes to get people personally involved with audiences so that they can get emotionally invested in them. And that's where that, it's not just the storytelling. You can have a great plot, but if you can't get somebody interested enough in the characters and what's going on in their life besides some bizarre scissor crap, I don't know, but like I said, I want to see it work. They've got $1 bajillion invested in this thing, and and God knows I am not saying I can fix it because it's too big for that. They need a team. They need an intervention as far as the way I look at it, and I want to see them succeed.
I think the aspect too is that so many people criticize it, but it's a lot of it. I think Tony Khan takes it to heart more than takes it as constructive criticism, where sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, you have to kind of take yourself out of it. I know it's your product and you care about it passionately. And I think you're 100% right in the fact that his heart's in the right place for it all and everything to that notion. But I don't think he can see sometimes past the weeds of when people are being critical. So many of these guys that are critical of it, these talents, personalities, and legends and stuff like that, they want to see it succeed. They're not hating on the product, like the product to hate on it. They're showing, what needs to kind of have course correction because, they've been there before and stuff like that. And Greg, obviously, like you've watched the product from time to time and we've covered it here and things like that. But what did you think of this whole, did you kind of happen to see Tony Khan this weekend during the draft with the neck brace on, anything like that? Did anything?
No,
you didn't see anything like that.
I didn't see it. I missed it. A TA kind of told the story there.
Yeah.
And I'm with him on that too. Mm-hmm. It's so hard for me to follow it. From the background I came from, the background TA came from, it's not, they got good talent there, but it's not packaged right.
Right.
And it's not being told right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they throw them together and it's boom, 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 boom. And then it's on to something else and it's boom, 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 boom. And it's a lot of action, a lot of stuff flying around, but no substance to it. Mm-hmm. Build a story, build your talent. But it's like Vern used to say, you have to have control of the talent.
Right.
You can't let the talent control the owner.
Right.
And I don't know if Tony has that feel for it, if he's just directing the whole thing, saying this is the way it's going to go, or if there's somebody else that's doing it that really has a whole different concept than what we brought to professional wrestling when we came into it.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to look, which was going back, we used to look at who was in the crowd. What kind of crowd are you drawing to the arena? And I think if you look at the crowd that goes to the WWE and the crowd that's with TBS, it's like night and day.
Right.
And they're so Tony Khan is going to a different audience, but will that audience sustain television ratings and wrestling in general with that presentation that they have?
Right.
If that makes any sense at all. But I mean, that's the way I feel about it. And I really, God, I'd like to watch it, but I just have a tough time watching it. And I've watched WWE and I've watched them progress now since Triple H and basically Rock are probably calling the shots. It's a different level in the ring. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing a little more old school in it, a little more storytelling, a little more, longer matches. I meant to talk last week about Sami Zayn and Chad Gable.
Yeah.
That match they had was an old style school match, and it told a story. And they had those people in Montreal rocking and rolling.
Right.
But it's got to be competitive. The match has got to be competitive, and it's either the talent that helps create that, but you have to have the guys overseeing it saying, here's where we're going with it.
Right.
And I don't think they have that. They don't have that guy in TBS to do that for them.
And Greg, it's not even just the individual matches. It's where they're wanting to go.
Yeah,
they can have. Yeah, honestly, no. What I'm saying, they can have some spectacular, A matches within the body of a show. Like one thing out of 12 can be an absolute A. And they might have a couple B's, and then it goes. But it's the continuity of the theme,
right,
of the entire thing. So what do you want to be? you can't be all things. And it's like back in the day when WCW was first competing with WWE. You couldn't out WWE what they were doing. They had a machine, they had everything to make it. They knew what they wanted it to look like, all this stuff. And if you want to do something that's you know, a different alternative, I embrace that. I get that, and that is, there's a whole lot to that. But you got to stand for something. You can't, on one hand, be the guts and gore and violence and that piece of it, which they do well, and then turn right around and have just the complete flying flapoons on the other side of the and trying to embrace everybody having an opportunity. Uh, it just hurts your brand unless there's and I would say maybe maybe there's an audience big enough that that appreciates something, and I'm just an old fart and I just stuck in a time capsule, but the ratings don't indicate that they do have it.
Right.
I mean, they're not carrying the interest for the the money on investment is not paying the dividends that any businessman that really had to depend on something being successful would do. They would pivot and turn and change, or bring somebody in and say, I need some help. This is obviously a case of having just a bucket full of resources, and again, passionate, believing in yourself and your dream, and playing it out on a big stage, as they are, but it's not sustainable. I don't care what you are. At some point in time, somebody's going to say, we're going to do a reconciliation here, and this isn't all going to add up. And even TBS is going to say, we're not getting, we're really not getting the share here that these time slots should be generating, because we're not getting the eyes on.
Right.
I mean, even Fox backed away from the high big, what they had, wanted to pay, and true, the WWE's changed their whole deal around, and I mean, they've just upped their ante. But even the big time players struggle, because at the end of the day, somebody's looking at the money.
Mm-hmm. That's what it boils down to. And I think the thing too is, Megan, what you were saying is like the matches themselves aren't really sometimes that they're. I thought like last night's Dynamite, all the matches just singularly were good by themselves, but overall, when you put the pieces together, a lot of it just does not make sense, and the reasoning and the rhyming and anything to that aspect is really, really head scratching. Where the creative is the big issue, and having that, Greg, to what you were saying, that one guy to kind of make that final say and to kind of be all knowing about where everything in the direction of the company is going, that's what it's severely lacking at this point.
You have to have the one guy that calls the shot, but you need a team there that helps develop all that stuff. And then you take everybody's idea and you put it into one, and here's where we're going with it. So you have a nice flow, but that thing it's over here and there, and it bounces around too much.
I agree.
And I'm like TA. I mean, I don't know how you can sustain that. Maybe they can, maybe they have, but I don't. Their numbers, like he said, they're not coming up. They're staying pretty flat. So that's going to be.
And that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how long the cons want to dump money into it. Some point in time, again, TV executives are saying, okay, well, what else? And then they're comparing. Well, what else can we put in this time slot to yield us X for what this, you add all the numbers up and everything else. But it's got to stick in people's craw when they see, WWE's numbers growing. They see the deal they cut with Netflix. They see all those things, and those are the things. Besides entertaining us, that's how you measure success.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's it. Well, fascinating discussion. I know. I wanted to get your guys' quick thoughts on the Dark Side of the Ring and The Rock. They announced that they're releasing a new Who Killed WCW series. and it's going to have a lot of those personalities on that was involved in it. And according to The Rock, according to Kevin Nash, they're going to tell the story, not the WWE revisionist history version that we've heard before on WWE documentaries, but what really came into play with all that stuff. I know you guys weren't there at the time when WCW did shut down and everything like that. But Greg, did you get any word about like during that time what really came into play? What was the big factor with WCW shutting down that you kind of thought? Who did you think killed WCW?
Who killed it?
You killed it.
The guy running it killed it.
Oh, so you go.
Well,
with
who
Bischoff
was,
then?
yeah. So are you talking about Mr.
Warner
Bischoff?
Bischoff?
No, I mean,
Well, who was running it?
who was running it?
That was AOL. Well, AOL Time Warner was the head honcho.
Who was running it? Who was running WCW?
So it was Bischoff starting off.
All right.
Then it turned into like Russo took over creative. What was the other individual's name too? That there was Ed Ferrara. What's the other name too? There was another like administrative name that wasn't on television. But
Yeah, but I mean, that's where it goes. It comes down to back who's running it.
mm-hmm.
It's not successful. They're the guys that are responsible for killing it.
Yeah, I know.
So did the product kill it, or did the finances kill it?
That's the question. That's what I want to hear a little bit more too of, because you look at like when AOL and Time Warner took it over, there was the aspect that that they had a lot of like handcuffs on what they could and couldn't do, and a lot of like, you know, creative control kind of issues that went on too. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if there's a definitive answer of who really killed it. You know what I mean? I don't know though. But Greg, you think?
Then why did you ask us that?
That's just the one.
Well, no, there's always a root cause, but it goes back even farther than just the end result of WCW.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go back. You got to go farther back. You got to go all the way back to WCW before Bischoff and before all that, and when they inherited a business model where wrestlers were no longer had an incentive to perform and to help the company be successful by being involved in, you know, something that created sellout business. They created a form in which you fought to get valued by your employer to the highest level you could be, so you could get the biggest contract you could get. That was just then mailbox money. So if your contract was $500,000 and your contract was $2 million or whatever it was, that was it. And in 1991-ish,
Mm-hmm.
TBS had a talent payroll of $9 million in 1991. And this is before all that took place.
Yeah.
So can you imagine what that had climbed to through the Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, DDP, everybody and their brother,
Yeah.
you know, Roddy Piper, Macho Man Randy Savage, Bret Hart's, all these guys that by, you know, lieu of, hey, this is the model, I've got to get my fair due because they're paying so-and-so over here $500,000. Well, if he's worth $500,000, I'm worth $1.5 million. You know, just whatever. You know, you created that thing, and it destroyed the incentive and the excitement to be part of things that you got rewarded for your contribution to it. They killed it by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great. It's great for you know, the talent to have, you know, a guarantee, and I don't begrudge them being, you know, getting a guaranteed income and all those things, but the incentives were gone to go out there and do it. And so, like, you know, if they go out there and it's a you know, sold out house or 3/4 sold out or half sold out, they're going to get paid the exact same thing. And if they go out there and tear the roof off the joint and have a 4-star match, or if they go out there and just go through the motions, they're going to get paid the exact same thing. And that is not a good model in anything.
Right.
In any kind of performance-based entertainment industry, that screwed the pooch big time.
When
And you want to know when all that started? When do you think that was, when did the clock turn and that became the norm of doing business?
Was it starting of I'm gonna go back, I guess. Was it starting like with no, I guess it wouldn't have been Vince doing that, buying everybody out, because the more the contracts came over was in that WCW time. I don't know, Magnum, when was it?
It happened when this little fateful thing happened to this kid in 1986, and he ran into a telephone pole. And he was
Oh,
one of 5 people who had contracts back at that time that guaranteed you a certain amount of money at the conclusion of the year, that if something happened to you, that was the least amount of money you were going to make. But it was a guarantee. It wasn't a salary.
yeah.
And there was 5 of us that had contracts like this, and it was the first in the industry. This happened in 1985.
Wow.
So at October 14th, 1986, the guy that they've got their hopes and dreams pins on at 27 years old gets taken out of the game permanently, and they panicked because they were doing sellout business, and they instantly started paying ridiculous contracts to people because they had money and they wanted to secure people quickly. And instead of a guaranteed incentive, the road warriors $500,000 a piece. Paul Ellering $350,000. This is the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And then it goes on up, and then Nikita's deal rolls over, Flair's deal rolls over. Everybody, now you're in a fight because you want to get valued as well as your peers that you're as good as or better as from a performer standpoint, and they instantaneously changed their nut and their guarantee what they had to pay out every week to X that had nothing to do with the draw, the houses, or anything. So their books got cooked. They ended up in a bajillion dollars of unsecured debt as a result of it, and sold out to Turner. Then Turner, he receives this broken system of pay in which we're guaranteeing the moon and stars to performers, whether they perform or don't perform, but based on you got to have them to be successful. And it just kept ramping up and ramping up and ramping up till the moon blew up. That's the rest of the story.
Wow. Well, you blew my mind up on that one. I did not know that at all.
Well, one other thing, when I was down there, Bill Watson hired me,
Uh-huh.
and Dusty was booking. It was Mike Graham and I were hired as assistants, and Bill Dundee. And they had a Bill came in one day for a meeting. He said, they got there. I said, where's the couple of guys who are supposed to be? He said, they're down in a meeting. They're trying to get an executive producer. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, maybe I should go down there and apply for it. He said, no, it's a bunch of BS. So they had Tony Schiavone, a guy named Joe Pedicino.
I've heard of him before.
David Crockett, and who was the other? And Eric Bischoff. Mm-hmm. Bischoff went down there. Now, Bischoff didn't know diddly about wrestling, to tell you the truth. And you know what they said? We don't want anybody from running wrestling.
Was that
Bischoff was about the only one that hadn't had any really background in wrestling, so he got the job. He became the executive producer, and after that, it was Bill got fired, and pretty soon Bischoff was running it.
So, Greg, maybe you can clarify this for me too, because I've heard in the past that the reason that they did that was because they didn't want somebody like a Bill Watts there, like kind of pulling the strings, because like he was so regimented in some of his philosophy when it came to some of that stuff, when it came to the rules or his philosophy on wrestling.
But Bill was giving a presentation that worked for him, and it would work for TBS too. It would. But
yeah.
They didn't want anybody from wrestling running it because they didn't think anybody knew what they were doing. They
didn't have anything to prove but to their credit or discredit, they didn't have anything to prove otherwise, because nothing that had preceded that had been successful. I mean, Dusty gave it the All-American try. Jim Ross was in there with some great creative things, and just nothing was moving the needle the way it needed to go to get over that hump. There wasn't. I mean, Sting was over, getting over, and they were doing all kinds of things to make it look, try to make it look spectacular, but the product just wasn't on the level that it needed to be. And I remember they came out, they had a thing, they had a little promo thing come out that said, "Wow, WCW." I remember Barry Windham looking over at me and said, "Yeah, wow, wrestling or what?"
We were wrestling in South Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And that's when Bill walked in and he said, "Well, I'm not your boss anymore. Eric Bischoff is." And I ended up with Bischoff a couple of times in the car, and he says, "How do we turn this thing around?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, the quickest way would be to get Hulk Hogan. "Well, we don't know Hulk Hogan." I said, "Well, I know Hulk." And I said, so I had called Hulk and told him that they wanted to talk to him. And Bischoff, they set up a meeting with, they wanted me to set up a meeting for him.
Uh-huh.
So I'll set one up, but first of all, I want a little bump here, buddy, before I do all this for you.
Little boost.
And okay, we'll take care of it. And this was like on a Monday or Tuesday. So we got near the end of the week, and I said, "Hey," he says, "Have you got a hold of Hogan?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, but I'm not. I'll set it up for you, but again, you give me the deal." Well, Bill Shaw's out of town, but he said he would get you a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that was on a Friday, and I went home on Friday nights. I come back Monday morning, a big sign in the office, "Welcome, Hulk Hogan." So I got nothing out of the deal, and they flew down to his house and signed him. And then from that, Hogan started bringing in his buddies back from the WWE.
Yeah.
And that's how they built it. And, it worked for a while. But again, you didn't have the right people in there running it to keep that momentum going, to keep that storytelling, keep that alive, and that's what I with AEW. That's what we were talking about before.
Right.
And it was that continuity. You have to have a continuity. You have great talent, but you have to put that talent together in the right places and give them the right direction. And if that's not done, it's going to fall apart.
Right.
When you're letting the inmates
run the asylum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not that they're inmate, but if you're letting them, wrestlers are good, but they're good for most people can figure out what they want to do with themselves in kind of a match or an angle.
Right.
But to do it for everybody and absorb that whole thing. And that's what Vern taught us when we were there. You have to think about the whole team. Mm-hmm. It's not just, these two guys are going to make it. It's the whole team. And we have to have continuity with it, with the flow of everybody going through.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Vern was exceptional at doing that. And why we had the highest rated wrestling program in the U.S. 24 rating with a 64 share.
Yep.
In our markets.
Only beat by 60 minutes.
60 minutes. That was it. And I'm sure they had great ratings in Charlotte too.
Yeah.
I know they did.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And they did in Florida.
Well, I think it's such a fascinating topic. I'm looking forward to I guess it debuts on June 4th is this series. So it'll be interesting to get those takes, but I wanted to get your guys' takes.
Yeah. I want to see how far they peel the onion back. Cause it's not a one guy thing.
No,
it's like the guys, there's a group of guys that hate on Dusty for the Crockett's deal, going south, but there's too many pieces in the puzzle to tie anything to any one, person. It becomes a culture, and then that culture shift, that a lot of dynamics come together to keep those things from happening. And I mean, I honestly believe, if Jimmy had somebody looking at it a little more globally, there might not have ever been a TBS, WCW, anything. Because, had he had the insight to, start pulling the outside wrestling world in, promotions and things to get, our people on the late night show and hobnobbing with the Hollywood, group and being multi-diverse in what we were doing because, face it, we had really deep talent pool. We were just working with the opportunities that were being brought our way. And the Crockett family, great group of people, the best I've ever worked with, but they had a certain sphere of influence and experience and everything else. And nobody, was envisioning something that could have become a $1 billion industry for them.
Right.
They weren't weren't able to think outside that box because they're working their butts off to keep up with the things they were in the little pool. But I would have loved to have seen what it would have looked like if the Dick Eversols of the world and folks that and that the WWE was able to woo and to bring in and help them or whatever had come into the Crockett world and really taking it all to that next level because bell time to bell time and arena business we were right there and with them and beating them, but they weren't thinking global about being on, primetime NBC and doing things outside the box like the WWE was thinking. But yeah, that would have just that would have been mind boggling. I mean, they never would have lost the business had they just been able to expand their thought.
You guys both make great points too in the regards that AEW could really learn from this kind of aspect of it all, where it's like you have an outside person that kind of oversee everything in a way where it's just like looking out from being in that bubble that like the Crockett's were kind of in, that they were constantly going, constantly moving, and Tony Khan's basically in that right now. He's in his world and getting that constantly going, not thinking about what is incentive to him and what's good to him and stuff like that. But like Greg, like kind of what you were saying too is like, AEW could really learn from a lot of this stuff. I think it's like,
you need to put together a team.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I mean one guy can't
one guy can't do it. Yeah,
no,
mm-hmm.
and then he's getting fed. This guy's feeding him stuff that yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Let's do it. But you have to put it together the right way, and you have to have that continuity, and you have to have that storytelling. And you have not just with two people that are going to think they're going to carry it. And then you got two people over here saying, let's do this. And then they're doing their thing. And pretty soon you got all this stuff going like that. You don't get that flow to keep everybody's attention locked in on like a good TV show like Yellowstone. Every week you want to see what's coming up next, I
got to add that to my list.
Those characters all have their space and they all have their positioning. And that's what you need for success.
And it's a neat kind of comparison too. Is when you were mentioning it, so it's got to be like a team, like Vern was saying, it's got to be like a team effort kind of thing. Like you know about yourself, but it's almost like a baseball, like, where like the player's worried about his stats and what he's going to do at the plate or what he's going to do behind the mound, on the mound. But ultimately you're thinking from a whole perspective of how the team is going to operate and how you're going to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting stuff, guys. Geez, we went had a spotlight. We'll wait till next week for that one.
Good.
Robert, yeah, I'm going to put you in charge. Pick three questions. We'll answer those ones, and then we'll get the heck out of Dodge. We'll also plug Power Town here, obviously, before we go.
We better plug Power Town.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that for sure. So, Robert, pick up something. All right. Italian says, what were the biggest years in both of Greg and Magnum, money-wise or fame-wise? Greg, what was your biggest year, money-wise and fame-wise for you, would you say, this year?
Biggest year would have probably been 1980, 83, 85, 81 to 85. I can't just put 1 year on it.
Yeah.
We started wrestling in 72 and really we had success starting in 75. The biggest years came a little later, like 78 through about 85. We were humming pretty good.
Nice. How old were you around that juncture then? Were you like mid-30s?
Well, let's see. Yeah, mid-30s.
Mid-30s? Okay.
Late 20s, early 30s.
All right. Yeah. So wrestling prime.
When'd you have to go? Okay, you want I'm 75 today, so figure it out.
I'm not good at math, Greg. I write, but I can't do math. Magnum, how about you? When was your biggest fame year, would you say?
So my biggest year was in '86.
Okay.
I was on track to make about $250,000 that year, which
Wow.
that was before pay-per-view. And so, that's with no pay-per-view, anything extracurricular, anything, just wrestling. So for my spot, which was, on top, right below Flair's spot, that was a lot of money. Dusty and I both made the same thing as far as like the payoffs in the buildings. But he made a lot more money because he was making, by booking, he was getting a percentage of the towns.
Oh.
So he was making 3 times as much money because he was getting percentages of towns. And then back then, the world's heavyweight champion got 10% of the gate.
Oh.
So it was a total of 13. 3% went to the NWA and 10% went to the champion. And that was part of the reason the NWA, whole title thing and all that thing ended up going out of the picture with the big gold belt.
Yeah.
But Rick had his first, I believe he told me, first $100,000 month when he was wrestling me around the Horn the first time. We did all the hour Broadways for the world title, and because he was getting, again, 10% of the gate.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay. Wow. That's something. Holy smokes. Yeah. Big money talking there. I like it. All right. What do we got next? All right. Italian again. Was there any retaliation to the Road Warriors from any other teams after a Saturday morning TV? Do you guys remember anybody getting ticked or pissed off at the Road Warriors when they worked with them? Who stepped up to them even?
Personally, I don't think any of those people were in a position to say boo.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because they were always, to be fair, they weren't out. They were giving them cannon fodder. They weren't sending anybody out there that it wasn't blatantly obvious they were there, for what they were there for. But and it wasn't just the Road Warriors. I mean, the Steiners roughed up a few folks over the years, too. In that regard. But I didn't ever see anybody bow up after a Saturday morning. They might have licked their wounds a little bit, but I didn't see that.
Greg, did anybody Indian Deathlock Animal besides you?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
But you had to slow these guys down. I mean, they came balls out when that bell rang.
Yeah.
You had to get something. So, we were educated enough from Vern in the camp of how to help control a match if it's getting out of hand. And that was always a pretty good hold to do it with.
I didn't have enough time to do that in that 3-minute squash job.
Yeah, as it ever. What do you got in your lap there?
Well, there's a cat. He just moved down from me. He's been hanging out a little bit. It's almost his dinner time, so he's getting a little antsy.
No wonder.
Yep. Robert, we'll do one more, but guys, we'll save some of your questions for next week too. CB, Greg and Magnum, what do you think about wrestlers crying like babies / girls when they're released from their contract online? It's a different landscape now because you have social media, so immediately they're right in the emotions of it all getting released and getting that notification. How do you feel about that, Greg, kind of airing your grievances online sometimes? I know you're not a big social media guy. You did great on Instagram, though. I'll say that much.
Well, thanks.
You're
on there. You're on there all the time.
I'm on there all the time, too.
You got a very good page going.
Thanks.
I don't know. Who was the guy crying?
I don't know. There's some people kind of air their grievances here and there, but it's like some people go on. I know what'll happen. I know Cameron Grimes was one name that really got emotional after he got released. Some people will just make a statement or something like that. But sometimes people will get a little upset, I think. But nothing.
Well, I guess everybody gets. I mean, if you go into any office in the United States and the guy gets fired, he's going to be upset.
Right.
But, there's a reason you got fired or you let go.
Yeah.
I mean, we've lost our goals in the United States. You work hard, you get rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
But
that doesn't apply in this situation. That got nothing to do with why the WWE
Creatively
likes club
wise,
people.
yeah,
Yeah,
all
this
right,
isn't
tell me
a I
why.
didn't work.
Tell
This
me
isn't
why.
a I didn't work hard. This is a I
No,
just
I
happened
didn't
to my
say that.
number came up.
Well, did you cry when you got released?
I never got released. What are you talking about?
Isn't that what they're
he's
talking
Greg.
about?
He's the
You didn't get
boss.
released.
No,
Well, what is he?
no,
He's talking
we're
about
saying
getting
we're
released from your
saying people
contract.
using no, we're saying people using the social media platform
Oh,
to air things out that ordinarily would have been behind closed doors
Right.
and
That's
or been within your friend group or your close people. And it kind of puts a bad taste in people's mouths because they don't understand the total passion of it. But that's the least of what's aired on social media and people talking about things that got no business being talked about on social media. You get in a fight, you get in a fight with your wife, your girlfriend, or whatever, and it becomes a post, and everybody's got their touchy feely, gloves on, and everybody's got a 2 cents worth about it. It's the biggest old hen house. It's like all the old biddies standing over out by the fence and talking about what happened this weekend. Can you believe Jolene did that? I mean, it is just
well, shit, I don't follow it.
as Dusty would say, it's ridiculous.
ridiculous, baby. Good thing
Yeah.
you don't follow it, Greg, because it is nuts.
I
People
don't
do-
follow social media. I got on the Instagram to help our Power Town.
That's it,
I want to talk about Power Town on because we have such a great product out there.
right?
When you look at the action figures that Power Town is putting out, they are the top of the line. That Ultra
Look at
group
those.
and this group that came out with TNA selling
Man.
like hotcakes. That's what TA and I are working on, and that's what we like. We want to have the best product for the people out there that love professional wrestling and other sports, and that's our goal. And
these
we've got a
figures
good
here-
group of people. Steve Rosenthal on top of the board, and TA has put a lot out. Both him and I put a lot of hours into this, and we want it to be a success.
Mhm.
And that's why I got on Instagram to help plug Power Town, because otherwise I could give a rat's ass about any of it. I don't pay any attention to what people are saying online.
Right, that's a good
I
thing.
always got criticized a lot in wrestling, and Vern said just to pay any attention to it. Just do your thing, move forward.
I think a
So
lot of
that's-
people could learn from that today.
That's the best advice I can give to anybody.
There you
Get
go.
off that social media and all that bullshit that's on there.
Well, what's not bullshit is Power Town. You guys do
That's
that.
not. You're right.
that
You got it.
Go to powertownwrestling.com. Pre-order those TNA figures. They're amazing. My goodness, I want all of them. I want the whole roster on there. So it looks great. Magnum, anything on the news front that you can kind of reveal or hint at, or are you keeping your lips sealed here at this juncture?
Well, we're trying to get through our TNA push here, which is gonna wrap up here sometime towards the end of May,
Mhm.
and we're getting ready for Ultras Series 2 that was originally forecasted first quarter, but it's coming up, and really excited about the people represented in that, and we've just got so many great talent in the pipeline. It's almost, I mean, we could come out with it if we had the wherewithal to do it. We could come out with a new line every month and still be 3 years in trying to get everybody that we've got on board. But we're trying to hold true to the fact that we want to really make some of the most realistic looking from the head sculpts, perspectives of these legendary people and these current stars of today. I mean, Josh and Eddie and Moose and Jordan are going to be just blow people away when they see these come out, because they're 4-star. The intricacies in Moose's robe alone is like could be sold in a box in a little hanger all by itself, and be about $20 for what it costs to design this thing and make it. It's that special. So really proud of the line, proud of where we're going. Got a lot of new things and some other product line that we'll be making some announcements about soon.
Yes, there's definitely more to come here on Four Horsemen Network. We got some other news that will be coming down the pipeline soon enough. But guys, if you want to get those figures, PowertownWrestling.com. You can order them individually for $49.99 or get the whole bundle for $189.99. And I tell you what, those guys, Jordan and all the other gang there, they got to be excited for those figures coming out because the detail is super amazing. It's going to be pretty cool to check out.
Does the wrestling collection have any left, TA?
I checked last week, and they did.
Of the Ultra ones?
They still had the for display only, I believe.
Okay.
Well, they've got some for display onlys of Vern and Stan and Brody. They have a few of I believe of the others as well. A very few. So I haven't been on their website, and fans ought to check them out because they. They're definitely still some available.
I'm looking right now, and they have for the display only ones. They have one of Stan Hansen. They have a Bruiser Brody, the one I have, and they have Vern Gagne too. And then on top of it, they have the original figure or the full, not for display only, a version of Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen. So if you guys want to get that classic tag team together, you guys can still scoop that up at thewrestlingcollection.com. Additionally, they have those Powertown Series 1 collector's coins available for sale too that you can get a hold of too and add to your collection. So go to thewrestlingcollection.com and you can get those there. But exciting stuff here. And guys, wow, I didn't expect to take that turn today when it came to WCW and contracts and all that stuff. But man, what an interesting conversation it's been today.
Well, we hope it was. I'm sure we pissed off a few people out there.
That's okay. That's the going rate for us, I think. We got to at least piss off one person.
You got to.
Yeah, that's it. Just don't look at social media. That's it.
I'll get on it right away.
Right?
I need Go-Go here to help me.
Speaking of, you can go to Greg's Instagram. If you go to Gagne.Greg on Instagram, you can go to Magnum TA at the real Magnum TA on X or Magnum_TA on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter at Dominic D'Angelo. So, guys, thank you for tuning in. Fans, we'll be sure to screenshot some of these questions that you have, and there's some good ones still that we didn't get to. So we'll answer those next week. And, spread the word. Go to fourhorsemannetwork.com. Hit like, hit subscribe, get the word out about this show. We want to get things cooking, get things rolling. We got some exciting stuff down the pipeline. But
Magnum, like it is.
Yep.
It's the straight talk with the boss there.
That's it. Straight talk with the boss.
He doesn't like my straight talk sometimes.
That's why we got it here.
Good enough.
All over the place. Yep. Thank you guys. See you next week here on Straight Talk with the Boss. Magnum TA and Greg Gagne.